In a quiet village nestled among rolling hills, an old farmer lived a simple life, tending to his fields with steady hands and a calm heart. His most cherished companion was a rare white horse, its coat shimmering like moonlight on a still lake. This horse was no ordinary creature. Its grace and strength were unmatched, a marvel that drew envious glances from even the mightiest in the land. The farmer, however, saw beyond its beauty. To him, the horse was family, a loyal friend that shared his days and brought warmth to his humble home. Word of the horse's splendor spread far, reaching the ears of a powerful king. Messengers arrived at the farmer's door, their saddlebags heavy with gold, offering a fortune for the creature. The farmer, his weathered face unmoved, declined each offer. The villagers whispered among themselves, marveling at his refusal. To them, the gold could have transformed his life, lifting him from the toil of the fields. Yet the farmer remained steadfast, his bond with the horse unbroken by promises of wealth. One morning, the farmer woke to find the stable empty. The white horse was gone, its hoofprints fading into the mist. The villagers gathered, their voices sharp with judgment. They called him foolish for clinging to the horse instead of selling it when he had the chance. Their words stung, but the farmer's expression remained steady. He shrugged, his eyes tracing the horizon, and said that only time would reveal whether this was misfortune or something else entirely. Days passed, and the village buzzed with pity for the old man's loss. But exactly 1 week later, the white horse returned, its mane catching the dawn's light. It was not alone. Behind it trotted a dozen wild horses, their coats gleaming with untamed vigor. The villagers' scorn turned to awe. They crowded around the farmer's stable, proclaiming his luck. They spoke of the wealth these horses could bring, their voices bright with excitement. The farmer, however, only nodded, his gaze calm. He repeated that whether this was fortune or not, only time would tell. The farmer's son, young and eager, took to training the wild horses. He spent days in the fields, guiding them with patience, his heart set on taming their fiery spirits. But one afternoon, a spirited stallion bucked wildly, throwing the young man to the ground. The crack of bone echoed through the air, and he lay still, his leg broken. The villagers rushed to the scene, their faces heavy with sympathy. They called it a curse, a cruel twist of fate brought by the wild horses. They mourned the young man's pain, blaming the farmer's stubbornness for keeping the creatures. The farmer, tending to his son with gentle hands, only shook his head. He said once more that whether this was bad luck or not, only time would show. Weeks passed, and the young man's leg slowly mended, though he could not walk without a limp. The village, meanwhile, was struck by a far greater shadow. War swept through the land, a relentless storm that spared no one. Soldiers marched into the village, their armor clanking as they rounded up every able-bodied young man to fight in distant battles. Mothers wept, and families clung to one another as their sons were torn away. But the farmer's son, still hobbling from his injury, was left behind. The soldiers passed him by, their eyes fixed on those fit to march. The villagers, their hearts heavy with grief, looked to the farmer's home. Their sons were gone, perhaps never to return, while the farmer's son remained safe, his injury now a strange blessing. They began to see the old man's words in a new light. What they had called misfortune, the loss of the horse, the broken leg, had woven a path to this moment of salvation. Yet even as they marveled, the farmer remained unchanged. He tended to his fields, cared for his son, and fed the horses with the same quiet rhythm. When asked about his son's escape from the war, he offered no triumph or relief, only the same steady refrain. Whether this was good fortune or not, only time would tell. The seasons turned, and the village slowly rebuilt itself. Some young men returned from the war, scarred but alive, while others were lost forever. The farmer's son grew stronger, his limp fading, and he worked alongside his father once more. The wild horses, now tamed, became a source of pride for the village, their strength aiding in the fields and carrying burdens through the hills. The farmer's life continued, unmarked by the highs and lows that had stirred the village's emotions. He neither celebrated the return of the horses, nor mourned their dangers. He simply lived, his heart anchored in a quiet acceptance of life's unpredictable tides. Through it all, the villagers began to understand the farmer's wisdom. They had been quick to judge each event, labeling it as luck or calamity. When the horse vanished, they saw ruin. When it returned with others, they saw wealth. When the sun fell, they saw tragedy. When he was spared, they saw miracles. Yet the farmer saw none of these. He saw only life, unfolding in ways no one could predict. His calm was not indifference but clarity, a refusal to let fleeting moments define his peace. The lesson sank deep into the village's heart. Life, they realized, was a tapestry of events, each thread weaving into the next in ways no one could foresee. What seemed a curse today might be a gift tomorrow. What appeared as fortune might unravel into hardship. The farmer's steadiness became a beacon, a reminder that true happiness lay not in chasing fleeting highs or fearing sudden lows, but in embracing the unknown with grace. By refusing to judge each twist of fate, he had found a joy that endured, unshaken by the storms of chance. Years later, the white horse grew old, its steps slower but its spirit still bright. The farmer, now stooped with age, walked beside it, their bond as strong as ever. The villagers too had changed. They no longer rushed to label their days as lucky or cursed. They worked, loved, and lived with a new quietude, trusting that time would reveal the meaning of their joys and sorrows. And in the farmer's unwavering calm, they found a truth that carried them forward. That life's greatest gift was not in its outcomes, but in the courage to meet each moment without judgment, knowing that every step, whether bright or dark, was part of a larger, unseen whole.